now that we're a family podcast.
Well, Lisa Bass, thank you so much for taking the time to come back on the podcast. This is round 3 for you, which is pretty exciting.
Okay, yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah,
Nice.
so we're grateful that you're willing to come to speak with us again. I know our audience values you greatly and really appreciates you. For those of you that don't know who you are, maybe they've never heard of you, can you give your own in your own words? Who are you? What's your bio? What does Lisa Bass do? Are you a mother? Do you have children? Do you have a husband?
Yep, I got all of those things. So yes, I have been married to my husband for 18 years in December, so probably about the time this comes out. And our oldest was born right at our 1-year anniversary, so she turned 17 in December as well. We have 9 children ranging from 17 down to 2 months. And we are currently in the process of building a new house. So prior to this, we lived on a little 7-acre homestead, which was a dream for us because prior to that, we lived right in town for the first 10 years of our marriage. And then we bought that little homestead and we had a dairy cow and we loved it. But then we had the opportunity to buy a farm and build a house. And so we're right in the middle of all of that. And then I share about our life and I share a lot of recipes over on YouTube, Farmhouse on Boone on YouTube, and then also farmhouseonboone.com is where you can find recipes. And I have a podcast called Simple Farmhouse Life.
Wow, that's amazing. You also have like the baby in your lap while you're doing all of this. And
yeah.
I'm just amazed. I like the added difficulty of the earbuds. You're navigating well.
Well, yeah, yes, the baby is on my lap because you know how little babies are. They really can't be done by they could if that's all the other person had to do was watch one baby, but there's a lot more children that aren't in this room right now. So that's what we have.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have just like diving in? This is a random question, but just like with your work schedule and stuff and all the children, do you have set times you do that now? I know it's probably looked different over the years. Do you just kind of like, okay, hey, it's a quiet moment now. Mom's going to go do stuff. How's that kind of changed over the years?
So really, we've been doing it this way. So my husband has been home from his job and we've been doing this as a family now for a little over 7 years. And so the first year, I would say we didn't really have it all dialed in and it was kind of just kind of random because that's what I had done prior to that. It was just built around, nap times. We had very small children then as well, which is a whole different dynamic. And then for the last, I'd say at least 5 years, we've done it the same way. So we have 12 hours a week that are kind of devoted office hours where I'll do something like this or answer emails or do a voiceover for YouTube. But then the rest of the time is just family time mostly, which, is a lot of things. So homeschool activities, all that kind of stuff. So we have the afternoon hours, Monday through Thursday is typically, it revolves around kids' nap times, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
In this new build, have you thought more about being able to have a space for work? Because you moved into that farmhouse and it just was what it was.
Right.
How to work with that? Has that gone into the design of this home?
It has. I wouldn't say it's just specifically for work, but as kids get older, it's really nice to have a lot of spaces for people to go for various reasons. And so it's kind of something that'll work for us even beyond work, So one thing I learned with living in the first farmhouse and then living in this in-between house that we have right now is I really like my workspace to be close to the kitchen because I go back and forth between in a work hour, I might photograph something, I might film something, and then I might do a voiceover. And I don't like going off to a different spot. So we kind of were halfway thinking, oh, we'll use the attic as an office space. But now I'm like, why would I ever go from kitchen level 1 all the way up to the attic just to do a quick thing, like carry my tripod up there? So I think instead what's going to happen is the attic is going to be where kids can hang out. And since it's a few levels removed, it won't be too loud. So that's kind of, and then we have a bonus room over the garage and we have a barn. So it's kind of a lot of spaces for people to go so that the house doesn't have to be super loud.
Wow. Okay. So how many stories is your house? Is the attic a third story?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I guess it's technically 3, but the third story doesn't have a bathroom. It's just 2 open rooms. You come up a staircase and then you can go through door number 1 on the left or door number 2 on the right. And it's 2 open rooms.
Very fun. Elisha grew up in an old farmhouse like that. His parents' home is still that way with the attic being the third story. And
yeah, that's where me and my brothers, that's where our bedroom was up in that third.
Was
that third
it?
story. Yeah, I mean, my brothers.
Yeah. Well, we could use it for bedrooms, but the way our family is right now, the 5 bedrooms that the house will be is pretty much going to be enough. But I could see someone when they're like, if they're 19 or 20, still living at home, being like, okay, I'll take the attic or
Nice.
the garage bonus room. We definitely had that in mind, which I've heard people say that if you design a house in your 20s, it'd be different than if you designed it in your 30s, if you designed it in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s. And so you're just kind of doing what you know right now and, hoping you can predict as much as possible.
Yeah, I know that you were telling us last time how you hired I don't know if it was a designer or an architect or something, but he kind of like storyscaped your property.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
Yes.
how's that turning out? Do you love it?
Yes. It is turning out just exactly how I hoped it would. So I'm glad we did all that effort because it was a lot of effort thinking through. Like you guys know, you just built, you don't even think about like, I thought when people said, "Oh, I'm afraid to build because I'll have to make all these choices," I was thinking they were talking about like cabinet hardware and colors. That's like nothing. That's no big deal. That is not the problem. It is like positioning the buildings and like the way they face and whether or not you're going to put this little like your roof pitch and your gate
Yeah.
like just it's the big stuff that I'm like, oh, I did not even consider that. I just pictured there being a house and then inside you make all these decisions and I honestly haven't even made decisions for the inside yet. So I'm not even there and I already feel like we made a lot of decisions.
Wow, it's funny you say that because I think the one thing that I'm going to have to battle my entire life of living here at this house is the orientation of our build. Like you said, that
Okay.
positioning,
Yeah,
because
it's
it's like, well, I hadn't
huge.
thought of that. And overall, it's really good. But like, if I had a do over, there'd be like probably only like a 10 or 12%
Yeah.
shift. You know what I mean? But still, I
Yes.
think about it every time I drive up our driveway. I'm like, that orientation. It's once it's there, it's there.
Well,
So
yeah. And Luke, last night we were at the property and he was like, I guess the barn kind of blocks our sunset. And I'm like, well, but there was nowhere else to put it. Like there was nowhere else to put that barn. And you still see the sunset all the way until it gets to the roof of the barn. Like it's not like it's completely gone. And also you see it like peek around the barn. But yeah, there's just so many things to think about, like you said.
Wow. So you guys are doing like a full property build out with the barn, with the
Yes.
house, with everything all at one time.
wow.
Do
We
you,
are, which is kind of crazy. Yes.
are you glad you're doing that? Or would you do that differently?
I Yeah, no, I think I would do it just like this. Like, of course, it's taking a lot longer. Like, our build isn't going to be like, it's going to be over a year, which I guess in the grand scheme of things is not that big of a deal. But we probably were planning it for a good year before that. And then another year to like actually get it all built. And that's with, like having a crew that's coming and building it. So I still think I'm still glad we're doing it this way, though. Yeah.
So how's that? I mean, again, not to just keep talking this out, but I'm curious because we just went through this. As far as working through this with Luke, but then also the kids, getting opinions, it being a family thing. Was it that way? Was it the type of thing that's been enjoyable thus far to this point, or has it felt like work?
Um,
Like, has it felt like?
Uh, it goes back and forth. There's times where it's like really exciting, and then times where it's like overwhelming. I wouldn't say any of our kids are all that interested like in the design or anything, which I think they will be someday because I don't know. I feel like they'll enjoy like right now they don't really care. They're just like, where's my room,
Yeah.
But it's definitely been something that Luke and I have talked about like just nonstop pretty much. So we will be glad when it's over, but I think we'll also kind of miss it. Like every day you go out there and there's something new, just it's like a little bit like something new that you're excited about. And then looking back over the progress of it all, like I have this Instagram story highlight and just I feel like it's taking forever, but then clicking through it, I'm like, whoa, like we were there in July. Like I can't believe how far we've come since then.
Yes. Yeah, there are very quantifiable gains and like the
Yeah.
progress is very visible, which
And
is
that's
which is
fun.
rewarding. Yes, it totally is.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm curious, baby number 9, that's something, and congratulations, huge deal here. Has there been anything, I guess I'll ask it this way. Through the 9 children, did you ever feel like you hit stages where you're like, okay, child 1 through 3 kind of felt the same, then child, 4 through 6 felt the same? Or has every child presented like a unique dynamic shift in your home?
I do feel that some felt very much the same. And then there were certain ones that it felt harder. And I don't really know exactly why. Like, I felt like adding the 8th baby was a little bit harder. Like, I remember constantly thinking like, whew, okay, like this is just very different than it was 2 weeks ago when we only had 7 kids.
Right.
But 9 actually didn't feel that way. And I really can't explain why. Like she didn't feel like any more than it already was going on. And there's been other kids like that too, where it just felt very seamless. I don't know how you guys feel about that, having 6. Like there's certain ones that felt easy to add and certain milestones that were a little bit more difficult. I don't know if it's really the same across the board. Like I think people have different opinions on which ones those are.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like interesting when you hear from different people. And I'm always curious, like, I feel like it could potentially be more environmental factors, in terms of like what's going on in life at any given time. What's funny is I felt like the 6th for like our first 7 weeks was very easy. I think because our life was so topsy-turvy at the time, I didn't really notice. Like
that's probably what it is. Which seems counterintuitive. You're like, my life was crazy, therefore it was no big deal to add a baby. Yeah. But that's like, it doesn't really make sense as to me too, like why our 9th would be the one that didn't feel like a big deal. But you're right, you don't even notice because there's so many other things going on.
You're just winging it,
Yeah.
Sometimes like the ones where like we've had such a steady, solid, like, I don't know, straightforward life. And then it's like, whoa, the baby's like shaking things up. But I don't know.
That's interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that because my 8th definitely felt like more of a thing. And I'm like, why? Like we weren't even looking at property yet. So we weren't like, like life was just very normal, like routine as usual. Yeah. It's interesting.
Who knows? So how's it been with you have young adult girls now, right?
Yes.
How fun. How are you navigating that? Like, okay, homeschool through high school. Do you feel like you and your husband have this plan for what's next? You're going to kind of let them lead? Like, how are you navigating launching these young adults?
I think, at least so far, that is way easier than the little kids that you're trying to teach. Like, I don't think everything about little kids is harder. Like, I think some things about little kids are so much easier. But as far as school goes, the little kids are definitely harder because you're teaching them like the basics that they need to even move on to being self-directed. But yeah, my oldest 2 are both my girls, and they both have made it pretty easy on us. And yeah, we're very like interest led at this point. Like these two are definitely aren't interested in going to college. They have their things that they're interested in and they're trying out and trying a lot of things. And for me, that just feels very easy and natural.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because do you have multiple sisters, or do you have you're pretty close with them? Yeah,
Yes.
So has that been interesting seeing your daughters grow up, and does it remind you kind of your experience when you were younger?
Yes, it does. We really fostered that relationship more though. Like, well, we were always close, but we had our own friends. But what's interesting with homeschool kids is they don't have their own friends. Like my girls have friends together. They go everywhere together. There's not like, and maybe that's not all homeschool kids. Like that could just be my daughters. Like I don't want to speak like every homeschool family is this way. But my sister and I, we had like our own events, our own things, our own friends, and they do not. they kind of go in pairs and they have their friends.
Yeah, that was much more my experience growing up as well, as going with siblings to various things. I think it was with you guys too. And I think it was great, right? Of course, there were those times where maybe I begrudged it because it's like I wanted to go do something, just with my friends or something like that. But I think it did, like, as you said, foster far more of a lasting relationship, that like kind of cultivates that, I think, sooner. Obviously you're close with your sisters sooner. Now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Cause like my sisters and I are so close, but at least my younger sisters, like my sister that's right below me, we've always been very close through everything. But my sisters that were way younger, it's only been in recent times that's been the case. Like as they have moved into the stage of life that we're in, which I'm not saying, I think with homeschool kids though, you really would be friends sooner than that. Like sooner than you realize, oh wait, my peers aren't everything to me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. So like with your daughters being interest led, do you feel like you've had to present them with different opportunities or been like, hey, we're going to talk through what your interests are. We are going to pursue this one. Or has it just been totally seamless and that they've just kind of self-directed and you're like, great, that all looks good, and move forward?
Yeah, it's definitely been more seamless and self-directed. I can imagine that with certain of my children, just based on what I observe right now, maybe it won't be like that. But then again, maybe like that will happen at a certain age. But I do think that that would probably be the case for some kids. Like I have one kid that I'm like, I really hope I can get you into being a farmer. Like I want you to raise cattle. Like I think that that would be the best thing for you.
Mhm.
But I don't know if that would happen seamlessly. The interest that my girls have has pretty much been like just very obvious and also something that they've pursued on their own.
Yeah, were you always kind of self-motivated with entrepreneurialism and, creating content and cooking? Like, do you was there ever a time where you didn't feel, I guess, the motivation, or the clarity and the drive that you feel now?
I think it's really easy once something works. It's kind of hard to convince yourself to take something really seriously when it doesn't. I think that's where people who are otherwise very self-motivated struggle. So I think like the first 2 or 3 years that I had a business until it started making some money, it was kind of like, oh, I guess I'll try this, but very half-hearted. And once I saw it worked, though, I never struggled to find motivation after that. I don't think like it's been a pretty consistent 10 years.
Do you feel like your kids are entrepreneurial too?
Definitely. That's why it's one of those things. And I know your kids probably are too, because I do think there's a personality aspect to it. And they get that personality. A lot of them, not all of them, but the ones that are like people ask, will they go to college? I'm like, it would literally like damper their potential if we did that. And I remember my dad knew that about me. I was telling him I wanted to go to this like certain college and do this certain thing. And he was like, you should not do that. Like, that is not your personality at all.
That's funny. I remember, yeah, my dad wouldn't let me get a job. He was like, "You're an entrepreneur, Katie." And I'm like 18. I'm like, "I just want to like pay for my gas."
Uh
He's like,
huh.
"No, you can come up with a way to do it entrepreneurially." That's really cute. Your dad saw that in you. Were your parents entrepreneurial? I can't
Yes,
remember
they
you.
are.
Okay.
Yep. And my dad more so than my mom, but I definitely like look like and act like my dad in every way. Like my mom's just said my entire life, you're exactly like your dad. And it's funny because he kind of always been the kind of guy that like does his own thing. And it's not like he's ever really said much to me about like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that ever. But like I remember clear, like the one thing my dad told me is when I went to this career fair and I heard what this certain career made, I was like, oh, well, then that makes sense. Like that's a pretty good salary. And he's like, no, 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 that's all you'll ever make if you do that. Like, do not lock yourself into that, which is just so funny because at the time, like I was probably like a rebellious teenager and I'm probably like, whatever. But I listened to him and I'm really glad I did.
That's great. I'm being the one man in this conversation, I'm going to be the one that brings up sourdough and whole wheat bread here. Okay. Cause
Cool.
this is, we heard Sue Becker on your podcast, maybe a year or so, whatever, sometime. And then we were able to talk to her on our podcast. And, obviously she's a hoot and just like a whole wealth of knowledge, and her experiences is extreme. But then you kind of made this change to going whole wheat, and sourdough's been a huge part of your life, and
Yeah.
all of that. What does that look like in the home, because I think sourdough is such a cultural thing. And obviously it's been great to our family, but as we're making that change, some things are changing. Has that like practically for your home, for your family, what does that look like?
Well, as far as like health, I wouldn't say that we really had any sensitivities or anything. So I haven't really noticed like, oh, we saw this change because we really didn't have anything that we were trying to change necessarily. But as far as has it been more difficult, I think once you get used to any routine, it becomes pretty simple. So like I have a favorite bread recipe that I make over and over and over again. And I weigh the grains beforehand. I have my mill sitting right on my counter. I have the buckets like right there in my kitchen and my scale right there. And so it feels as easy as like getting out the cup measurer and getting all purpose flour. It doesn't feel much more difficult than that. And so yeah, it hasn't been a very overwhelming shift at all.
Yeah. Have you noticed there being like not as much carryover? So like maybe, if you were going to do cinnamon rolls or hamburger buns or pizza dough or something where it doesn't have the same, appeal, or you've found some new things where the features of whole wheat kind of are highlighted more in a positive way?
Yeah, well, certain, like you mentioned, cinnamon rolls work fabulously with whole wheat. Like they don't taste any worse to me when they're whole grain. And then even cookies, when you use soft white wheat, taste just as good as cookies with all purpose. The one place I will say that I like a little bit of all purpose flour is in my crusty sourdough bowl. So I've gotten it down to I do a little bit more than 2/3 whole grain, and it still has that like crusty exterior and just like the sourdough you know and love. And that works great, but just a little bit of all purpose, which I'm comfortable with doing. But like you mentioned, hamburger buns, I had some in the oven. I actually just texted my daughter. I'm like, can you get those out? I forgot about them. But those are 100% whole grain and they're wonderful. Like anything soft, like that adds honey or an egg or something like that. You're not trying to get that like crusty sourdough boule type of thing. Works really wonderfully with whole grain.
That never dawned on me till just now that it's the crust that you
Yeah.
miss with the artesian bake
Yes.
method, when you use those whole grains. I wonder why that is. You just don't get that, crunchy crackle.
You don't. And I don't really know why. I'm sure there's probably some science
Yeah.
behind it, but I do 650 grams of hard white wheat, 300 grams of all purpose, and it still has that. So I'm like,
Okay.
that's mostly very healthy. Like you're still getting most of the whole grain.
Oh, yeah, totally. All those great oils and everything. That's good. That's awesome. You're such a scientist in the kitchen, Lisa. Have you always enjoyed figuring out those little measurements, how far you can go? Are you like a dump and go cook for the
Yeah, I'm
most part?
definitely a dump and go cook. I've only
Okay.
become this way because of my blog. Like I have to give people, like I have to spell it out or it's not a blog post.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not I'm not actually a scientist. And the thing is, when you have so many children, you can't over make food. Like there's no chance you're going to make too much. And so I'm always, I make bread pretty much every single day. And so
Wow.
it gives me a lot of opportunity to be like, oh, well, this time I tried this time I tried this. Like it's a very on the go thing where I'm constantly refining. I'm always saying on my YouTube channel, now I'm doing this. People are probably like, I thought you said you did this. I'm like, I did, but now I do this. So this is what we're doing now. Like it just gives you a lot of room for experimentation. Your kids will eat it anyways. So it's not like anything's going to waste.
Do you feel like your girls have picked up those habits in the kitchen in terms of just like, okay, from you just watching you like throwing a little bit of this, throwing a little bit of that makes a good soup or this makes a good dish?
One of them.
Okay.
The other one is not that personality. She's like major perfectionist, like with everything she does. And they couldn't be more different because the other one, it's like, seriously, this has like way too much salt. You were just like, but she mostly does amazing with it. Like for the most part, she's really good, like the not perfectionist one at throwing things together. But she is like so haphazard with it. And the other one is like, it says this, so I will do precisely this.
That's great. Like who should do the baking maybe and like who should make dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the type of thing that you've kind of formalized as far as a daughter taking a meal, on a consistent occasion?
No, it's very much like on the fly. Like last night, I headed out right after work time. So I was like in the vehicle by 4:00, heading to the farm to meet Luke with the boys that he had there to get them back. And I'm like, hey, make dinner. It's kind of more like that. Like, what's going on and what do I need?
That's
Nice.
Great.
Yeah, it's cool that they're that capable to be able to just like do it on the
Yeah,
spot.
it
Yeah,
is. When you have kids that are 15 and 17, there's like, they can do real stuff. Like even if my oldest can drive. So even if it's like, hey, you also need to get this for the meal. Will you run to Walmart, then make the meal? We'll be back in 2 hours. Like that's,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds.
It's funny because I have my kids in the kitchen helping me a lot, but I've become a lot more of a dump and go cook. And so I'm curious, like with them, I'll be like, hey, just throw on some of this, throw on some of that. And then I'm like, I'm wondering if they'll make my food sooner for me if I have them measure and I know I can trust them with measurements, or if I'm just kind of like, just start picking up the feel of it and we'll kind of see, I guess, you'll just eat the experimentations.
Yeah.
Right. It probably depends on personality. Like some of them are probably going to do that no matter what. And then it also depends on how comfortable they are. So the daughter who I said is more of like a dump and go, she likes being in the kitchen. And so because of that, I have two daughters close in age. She's the one who, like when I say make dinner, I'm always talking to her. And then I'm telling the other one, like clean up after her kind of thing. Like that's how they partner up. And again, I'm not worried about it though, because when she needs to cook, like she'll figure it out.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm worried about that at all either. Like with
Yeah,
raising, we only have one daughter, Lucy. Like, but if she didn't know how to cook, even like when she got married or was living on her own or whatever, like I didn't.
I
I guess
didn't. I didn't know
you
at
had to put
all.
up with me for a
Yeah.
while. So when did you start enjoying cooking?
Um, I don't feel like I enjoyed it for a few years because I didn't know what I was doing, and that makes everything harder.
Yeah.
I started, I don't know if I really enjoyed it necessarily right away, but I started with like sourdough and making bread just for health reasons and for financial reasons around like my second daughter was born, so like 15 years ago. But then I think once I got good at it, because I've done it so many times and you it can expect consistent results, that's when it becomes more fun. You feel like you can experiment, be creative with it. I think once you know what you're doing, that really allows for a little bit more enjoyment.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I'm curious because we after baby number 9 here, and you said you're kind of in like an in between house. Is what it sounds like. Uh,
Yes.
are the holidays going to look different for you guys now with Thanksgiving and Christmas? Were you guys ever the host family, or what's that going to be like for you guys?
Um, we really haven't always done a lot of hosting because my parents have a really great place for hosting. So they'll pretty much look the same. We kind of hoped that we'd be in our new house by now. But since we're not, like, we're going to decorate this house for Christmas and we host some things, and it's definitely not as great of a hosting house as our new house is going to be. Like, I definitely had that in mind. I wanted to be able to host a ton of people. This house isn't that, but you can still do it. Like one of our daughters was baptized recently, and we had, let's put it this way, I made 12 pounds of ground beef. So we had enough people over to necessitate 12 pounds of ground beef, and it still worked out fine.
Oh, good.
Wow. Well, congratulations too. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, do you guys have like, I know we're getting into Christmas here a little too soon, but have you guys set a precedence with like gifts? And, I think that's something that people think of with a lot of kids, it's
Yeah.
like, man, is there kind of an expectation that had to be established, or how's that worked out?
So we do, because our kids, like, we're blessed to have a lot of grandparents. They have my parents, they have Luke's parents, and then Luke has two grandmas still, both his grandmas still.
Oh,
And so therefore, like, the kids get a lot of gifts. And so we've always done, and I say just stockings, but you know how stockings are. Like,
Right.
it's not even just stockings. Like it
Yeah.
ends up being a lot anyways. But we just do Christmas morning stockings. That's always been our thing. So it's not huge, but also they end up with so many different events that, it ends up being plenty.
Yes, that sounds very similar because I was one of 10 children, and I had great grandparents. Sorry, I had grandparents on both sides. I had some great grandparents as well that would buy us gifts. And so my mom, just ended up doing stockings for us on
Yeah.
Christmas morning for all 10 children. And you are right. Like it's ridiculous what's considered like a stocking stuffer these days.
Yeah. You spend a
Big.
lot
Yeah.
just
yeah.
just doing stockings. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same, my mom still does it. We still go over there for Christmas, and for all of her adult children, she still gets a stocking. So
Still has stockings.
it's kind of
Yeah,
honestly
that's
kind of
neat.
meaningful to me. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you have personalized ones with your names on them?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, they originally had the names like stitched in. That they're not there anymore, but we all know which ones are stockings because it like
Okay.
had a certain pattern, on it.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
neat. Yeah.
pretty cool.
It's a neat tradition.
So do you have your kids? I know we talked before about extracurriculars. You guys are like, we aren't really going to be the sports family or something like that, but do you have any classes that your kids are involved in, or things where you kind of have to divide and conquer co-ops, or I don't know, youth groups or anything like that, where you're kind of like, okay, how are we fitting this all into the schedule, the kids' interest? It's nice you have a driver now, but
Yeah.
how do you juggle that?
Yeah. So they do, like, my oldest two do youth group. My son is old enough, but he almost never wants to go. So that's easy because they can drive there. And then we do Awanas on Thursday nights. We've been doing this for years. We divide and conquer on that because not all the kids can go to it. Plus, we have to be out really late. Yeah, I find with wide age ranges, it's not something I really realized we'd be doing, but there's a lot of dividing and conquering. It's not like everybody always goes in the same direction. Now, we do things where we all go in the same direction, but there's plenty of times where we don't. But we keep our activities very minimal other than youth group, and then that Awana that I take them to. That's pretty much the only regular thing that we have.
Do you find your house kind of being a hub for some of the kids' friends, throughout the week? Are they popping in, or do your kids have friends over a lot?
Yeah, so my oldest two host quite a few things because, they're motivated to do it. And so they put it all together themselves. Like they have a sewing club they do once every other week. They've done like dinner parties. I definitely want to be a host family. Like that's kind of a lot of the design of our house is kind of based around that, like having a lot of open space for hosting things. Like that's definitely something we desire to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and it seems like it's perfect timing now with kids in high school, really getting to that age
Yeah,
where they want to be social, they're going to have friends.
right.
And a lot of those friendships kind of established through Awanas, through church, through the youth group. Is that kind of where most of your friends connections are coming from?
Yes, pretty much exclusively those things. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot to draw
And
from.
then family and cousins, because my sister she's pregnant with her eighth. And so a lot
Wow.
of their friends are also cousins because we had the same genders. So we had between the two of us 3 girls in a row and then 12 boys in a row. And so it's like perfect because they all
Wow.
have kids their age.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
fun. That's a fun
Yeah, it's
thing.
it's very fun.
Yeah.
That's great. So, okay, so tell me a little bit more real quick about the sewing club. How does that work?
So once every other Tuesday, they have like friends come over around 4. These are all homeschool girls, so I guess like, their schedules are pretty flexible. They come over around 4, they stay till 6:30, and honestly, I don't even know how much they sew. I think they called it a club because my girls love sewing, but then it turns out like a lot of teenagers don't really like sewing
Yeah.
all that much. And was like, "What'd you guys make?" Like, "Oh, we made this." And I'm like, took you all that time to make that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it might just be an excuse to hang out, to be honest. But yeah, it started as like, we're going to make sewing projects.
So everyone brings their machines and then
No, they don't all have them. So, but my daughters
okay.
have 3 machines. And so they kind of and they have like a devoted sewing room because this is like their obsession is sewing. And they have tons of fabric. And yeah, it's kind of, they're the host of that.
Yeah, I mean they're your daughters.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You
Yeah.
pass that on.
Well, and it's really like people like, oh, I didn't teach my kids to sew. I'm like, honestly, I don't even know if I really taught them to sew. Like, there's been things here and there where they're like, hey, how do you do this? And I'll show them, but it's not like we ever did like sewing lessons where we're going to sit down today and we're going to work on this. Like, it hasn't been that. And my oldest daughter is definitely like way, way beyond my skill level at this point. So it was not all me.
That is so cool. And does she sew kind of like she cooks? Do the girls have patterns they follow, or are they just like cutting out stuff and winging it?
Um, Actually, it's kind of weird because she's the one that's like a perfectionist with the cooking, but she does she makes things that she completely wings. But when I say wing it, I mean it's probably like she's taking it pretty seriously. But
Mhm.
she does like elaborate things that she's very perfectionist about. But they also do some patterns as to take clothes they love and like draft patterns from stuff like that. They have a gosh, what's that thing called? Not a mannequin, dress form. They have a dress form. That's their size. And so they build dresses off that as well.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, that
That's
is
like
cool.
my dream. Do you find time to sew still, Lisa?
No, not at all.
I was gonna say.
No.
It's such one of those things you have to like sit down and have so many things out, and it's not super
Yeah.
child friendly with the
Right.
pins and scissors.
Can't have a baby in your lap
Yeah.
very easily.
I used to sew with babies on my lap. I just don't even care enough anymore. Like I still love cooking and I still love baking bread, but like sewing, I don't care. The thing with anything, you can find a way to do anything that you really love. Like you can definitely still do it, but I just don't care anymore. So I'll have anything I need to sew. I'll always just push off to my daughter because she likes it. I'm like, hey,
That's
I
probably
need some
part of the
newborn
reason.
clothes.
Nice.
Yeah, and like I have a couple chairs that I would have slip covered them because I want a new fabric for them. And I'm like, hey, when we move to the new house, like you're gonna make new slip covers for these because she'll enjoy it too.
Yeah.
But that's something that I just push off to those sewing loving girls these days.
Nice. That's great. I mean,
That's
if you can,
wonderful.
outsource to your children the slip covers, that's a huge win right there.
I can, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
she hasn't done it yet, but I'm confident. I'm
Nice.
confident it'll work.
Yeah, that's a win.
How cool.
Has it worked out so that Luke ends up just taking the boys when there's random projects out at the property, or he has to be managing people out there? Do they just kind of tag along oftentimes with him?
Pretty much every single day. So
Nice.
yeah, we'll do homeschool, we'll do lunch, and then they are end up out there like till dark, which now is super early, but it was very late. And yeah, there's just infinite stuff. So that's pretty much, I don't even know what we're going to do with all of our time when we're not doing that all afternoon.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
are they working on the build?
Yes. So
Okay.
there's just so many things because we're doing like a new old house. And so we're doing all wood siding and moldings and porches. And so there's like tons of painting and tons of cleanup because there's so much scraps because it's not just like it's just not very conventional. And so there's a lot to do.
Wow. I mean,
Sorry, how did you find your builder to build this? Like, did they know exactly what you wanted? Or are you kind of like, no, we want it like this, do this, and they're just figuring it out with you?
They're just figuring it out with me.
Okay.
I think sometimes they might regret this,
Yeah.
if they ever said yes.
yeah.
Because I think he kind of saw the plans and he was like, that looks easy enough. And then like when you scroll into the plans, if they're on your phone, like, okay, well, that's a detail we hadn't even considered. There's plenty of things like that. But yeah, they've been amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I bet the boys just love that. What a fun experience for them, to be able to be around that on a consistent basis. What a cool
Yeah, I think
thing.
sometimes it's fun and sometimes they're, tired of it like any kid would be because it's been, since February, like every day. But there's there's some boys that really love it and some that are like a little tired of it, but we make it all work.
Nice.
We'll look back on it fondly.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. This is in the midst of a crazy busy season. We were so humbled that you were willing to sit down and talk with us. I'm so grateful for all the work that you're doing, that you continue to do online, and your family. You're an inspiration. That is something.
are.
Raising awesome, capable children, building a house. This is wild. I can't imagine, living the life that you and Luke are living right now. So good on you, and keep up the good work. And thank you so much for doing this. I hope all of our listeners know you put out tons of great content. We'll link it all below. You already mentioned your YouTube channel, your podcast, your blog. Is there anything else that, are those the main places to find you?
Yeah. Yep. Those are. And thank you guys. It's always fun to chat with you. And I mean, you guys are doing the same stuff, like raising kids, building houses, having your business. So yes, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy because I feel like 6 kids and 9 kids oftentimes just kind of get put in this like big family category, but that's a third more. It's a third more than what we have. And that's just hard for me to wrap my mind around. That's just, so good for you.
But I mean, 6 kids was its own, it's like all just like 6 kids it felt like 6 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when they're all little.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, thank you, Lisa, so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.